Morning YouTube, welcome back to Shofar Mountain. Welcome back to Sister Kate's channel. I did change the channel name because Pastor thought it was too esoteric to have it called For God Live. It was easier to type in those 7 or 8 letters, so I'll give you that. As you see, I'm walking along the blackberry vine row. They are almost done, and we missed a week and a half when we went up to High Prairie Acres. But the Japanese beetles are pretty strong this year. And I've been lazy, I admit it. I know a way to make a Japanese beetle trap, and I just haven't done it. So that's on me. However, one thing I did get to do up in High Prairie Acres was cut a lot of wild grapes. We have a part of it, a shed, that is completely taken over by the vines, and this year the vines produced a bunch of little grapes, and I've just done a very surface level reading about tending grapes, and I know now that pruning the vines, cutting the leaves back as the fruit was formed would have helped there be not so many and them not so tiny, because they were all pretty concentrated, and they were sharing all, you know, what's in the soil and everything there, which had not been improved. So I already knew those particular things. That did not stop me from harvesting a bunch, as see, get it's a joke. Many of the grape bunches that were ripe. They were dark blue to purple, and when you bit them there wasn't a lot there, but it was grape flavored. And so I don't know, I cut probably 3-gallon Ziploc bags full of those and brought them down here, and then I washed them and I took all the grapes off, which I find out is probably not the best thing to do when you're doing wild grape wine, because the recipe I'm using says, you know, keep them on the vines and boil the vines with the berries. So I'm going to have to cut some vine off of here to make up the difference. So when we got back, you saw me in an earlier video where I identified some of the green grapes here on the property and trimmed back some of the leaves over top, because that allows air and light to get to those grapes, and that keeps them from getting like mold or other moist, you know, diseases or conditions on the actual grapes. So I had done that on the vines up top, which were pretty much gone when we got back, and I sort of knew that was something that could happen here. Squirrels and the pack rats and birds and stuff also are watching those grapes, and when they become ripe they will go eat them, just like they will the elderberries, which again here our elderberries are under trees, and so they're tall. They're like 10 feet tall. So something I did this winter time was research how to transplant the elderberries, and so this upcoming winter I will cut them and I will transplant elderberries to a different location where we can they can be out in the sun, and we can have easier access to get the berries off of them, because elderberry jam is delicious and you don't have to have pectin to make it. It's wonderful. And I have that in videos also in the back. You know, I've got 700 videos, so probably back around the 200s. And I will try to find them and put a link in the description below. So that brings me to here. These are the vines that are on the blackberry row. They are farther up the hill, and they had set many grapes, to my great delight, and I had to thank the Father for that, because grapes are one of his gifts to us. They've been around for thousands of years, and there's many biblical references to grapes and tending vines and planting your orchard and where you put it and who you get to help you take care of it. There's the statement about the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. It is a kind of labor-intensive thing if you have a lot of grapes to actually tend them and then bring them all in when they're ripe. So they have a special place in my heart, grapes do, especially wild grapes. And here on Shofar Mountain, we have hundreds of vines, they are all over the property. It is now on us to identify them, to, start to tend them, to support them, to bring that fruit forth. And this is the first year where there's been fruit of any kind of numbers. And again, because we were gone at a certain part of the season, we weren't able to take full advantage of that, but there is still stuff to be harvested. And so I just wanted to show you some of the vines. Right here you can see this leaf has some Japanese beetle damage on it. And it is right in the midst of all the blackberries, but there are grapes on it. If I can get that, see there's just a couple on that one and they're still green. But when I went underneath, down here on the ground area, there are little grapes all on the ground that have been blown off by the recent storm. So there was a decent amount, and there still are grapes. Let's see if I can get this on the camera too. Here, that I'm going to pick. And I will turn the camera around so I can get a really good shot. But you will see there's some kind of fungus or something on some of these grapes. And that is because I didn't get a chance to trim the leaves over top. This bunch right here in front of us, there are grapes like here that my thumb is touching that have some kind of brown coating on them. And I don't think it's the yeast. It's something else. It's some kind of fungus or bacteria or mold or something. Can you see that? Let me back it up too. This brown right here. That is because you see how these grapes are really near the top of the vine, but all the ones above them, the leaves are still there and they shade it, and they also allow rain to drip off of them onto the actual grapes, and so you get whatever that brown rust thing is. And I'll probably look that up for future reference. Maybe I can spray that with copper sulfate to stop the growth of that. I'm going to get in there amongst those vines, and I'm going to get some more of the ripe berries, the ripe grapes, because I do have the other ones already ready, and I'm going to start the process of making wine from these wild grapes. Here I've uncovered some of the grapes. You see I've been trimming these leaves and removing them. I even had to cut back some of the blackberry vines so I could reach in there. But this way, not only can I harvest them, but the little green ones that are not ripe yet, hopefully, will get ripe, and I can come back and harvest a couple of them too. I've noticed you have to be very careful when you're picking these, because you will knock some of the other grapes, even the unripe grapes, off if you're too rough with them. So I'm going to finish getting these ripe ones and then go back inside and start mixing up my grapes for fermentation. Here are the littler grapes. You can see they're so much smaller, but there were a lot, and I'm supposed to boil them now, so I'm going to get to that. I let Pastor taste test the wine. I looked at the recipe, and again, it's to be strained and like stirred and stuff, and I haven't been doing the straining and stirring. I have been switching it from container to container like it said, and I think it's like 8 days old now, but it might be a little bit older, and her recipe says it's ready in 11 days. So I just had a little bit left over, and I smelled it, and it smelled pretty good. So then I tasted it. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And then I let Pastor taste it, and he thought it was pretty good too. It's a little bit sweeter of a wine, but it's not overly sickeningly sweet like some sweet wines are. So he suggested I bottle it. So I'm going to do that right now. And I also checked our blackberry wine that was down in the basement. It had an accident early on. It got kicked over, or it exploded out the top or something. But I wouldn't let Pastor throw it away. We recapped it and left it down there. And it's turned into a very interesting wine as well. It's a lot drier. It's a lot more tart, but it's still got a good flavor to it. So I'm also going to bottle it. And I'm really excited about having these two wines made from the fruit on our land, given to us by Yah, the blackberries and the grapes. I'm really excited to be able to have this wine made and share it with the other believers during Sukkot, because that's my plan, to use, it's the end of the year harvest, and I'm just super, super excited that Yahweh gave us enough and that we had the time and everything to make this wine, because wine is, representative of the blood of Jesus. It has spiritual significance, and I'm really excited about it. So thanks for coming along the journey. Check out the recipe at Genius Kitchen, and if you have grapes, even if you buy them at the store, I suggest you at least try making your own wine. If you don't drink wine, let it turn to vinegar. All right, bless you. Thanks for watching. Shalom. Smells really good.